Hello, I'm Matt Reardon, and thank you for watching this special West weather update from Nutrien Ag Solutions on the evening of January 4th, 2023. We wanted to give you an update on a powerful storm that is spinning off the west coast of the United States here this evening. A powerful Pacific cyclone. You can see it here on the satellite water vapor imagery with this really classic comma-shaped cloud field as it strengthens here. That's pretty typical of some of these stronger events that we see this time of year. This one's certainly strong enough to warrant an update here this evening because of some of the impacts that we're expecting, particularly for California, both in the form of rainfall along some of these coastal areas that typically don't expect quite this much rainfall from some of these systems. We're talking 2 to 3 inches in some of these coastal areas, perhaps more as you get up into the coastal elevations, and then snowfall. As we move over to the Sierra Nevadas a bit further east, expecting feet of snowfall to kind of continue their big water year that we're having. We'll dissect some of those impacts here in this video. One reason we're talking about anomalous precipitation from this event is a term that I'm sure you've heard on the news. If you haven't, you'll probably hear it over the next few days, and it's what us meteorologists call an atmospheric river. And really what we mean by that is just a narrow band of anomalous moisture in the atmosphere. And I think you can see that here looking at this loop of total precipitable water over the last few days. These higher values of moisture in the atmosphere are being pulled up and out of the tropical regions of the Pacific toward the coastlines of California and Oregon. As the system has strengthened and spun up, these values will be blown over the coastal mountain ranges of California and then eventually over the Sierra Nevadas, which is a high enough mountain range in terms of elevation that much of that moisture will be wrung out and will fall as snow, which is why we're talking about feet of snow in terms of values falling over the next 48 to 72 hours in the Sierras. Looking at the current radar loop from Sacramento as of 2 p.m. Wednesday, you can see that, frankly, the event has already begun. We're seeing light rain falling in parts of the Central Valley, certainly the northern half of the Central Valley. San Francisco recording rainfall over the last few hours as well. The National Weather Service now highlighting Central and Northern California for flash flooding potential. See, they've even highlighted the axis of that atmospheric river that we just talked about as well, heightening the concerns for flooding as that comes on shore. If we look at the precipitation totals over the next 3 days or so from the ECMWF, see that the highest values are expected along those coastal mountain ranges. Could see 5 to 7 inches potentially, maybe even more in some localized mountainous regions. As we get further down in elevation, maybe the metro areas proper like San Francisco, could be seeing anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, maybe 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, really just over a 48-hour period or so. That's certainly enough over a short enough amount of time to increase that risk of street and urban flooding, which is why flash flood watches and warnings have gone out as of Wednesday p.m. Wind and wind gusts are going to be a concern as well, increasing through the overnight period and early Thursday. This is looking at the forecast maximum wind gusts from the 3-kilometer NAM, really over the next 60 hours or so. And we can see these areas of orange and red is where we're starting to exceed 55 mile an hour in terms of maximum wind gusts. That's enough to start causing a concern for some property damage, potentially power line vulnerabilities. We might be looking at localized power outages in some regions of the northern half of the Central Valley, potentially San Francisco and some of the metro areas further south as well. So that's going to be something to watch as well. Beyond the rain, beyond the flooding and some of the snowfall, wind will be a particular concern with this storm, given how strong that storm is that's spinning just off the coast of California. Snowfall, kind of the last part of this story. We're expecting large amounts of snowfall falling in the upper elevations of the Sierra Nevadas, really going off the color bar here. You can see 48 inches is sort of the maximum for this particular color bar, so 4 inches of snow. Certainly expecting to exceed that amount with this system here at the highest elevations of the Sierra Nevada. Again, talking 4 to 5 feet of snow with the system coming in behind it. It has been really that kind of year so far. It's been a fast start to the water year, at least in California proper. If we look at the snow water equivalents for some of these basins here, see we're running 200% of normal. Some of the central Sierra Nevada areas, at least 150% of normal in the northern Sierra Nevadas, and then increased values really across the west as a whole as a result of this fast start to the water year. A lot of these systems coming on shore, bringing rainfall and snowfall to parts of the elevation. To give you some annual perspective, we're looking here at the accumulated precip for the current water year in the central Sierra Nevada. See it starting here on October 1st, this blue line tracking where we're at here in the 2022-2023 water year. You can see that we're above average, at least for this point here on January 1st, the average being this light blue trend line here. In fact, we're right about where we were last year in terms of the 21-22 water year. Now, last year, the hose shut off at about this time last year. We can see that from about January 1st through March 1st, we had hardly any rainfall as a result of that drought building into the area. Now, we're not seeing any signs of that, at least in the near term this year. Certainly not over the next 72 hours as we just kind of walked through, but also as we look out at the forecast here from the week 1 to week 2 time frame, we're looking now at the Pacific jet stream, stretching all the way from Japan to the western coast of the United States. And this is a particularly extended Pacific jet, as we call it. And this is helping to promote storm system after storm system come through the western United States, dropping rainfall and snowfall into the Sierra Nevadas. As I play this forward, you'll notice this extended jet remains kind of continuously from Japan all the way to the western coast of the United States, with these storm systems spinning up in the eastern Pacific, which will keep that moisture flux coming from the Pacific Ocean across California, across the elevations, which are going to drop more rainfall and more snowfall as we go into the next few weeks. We can see that if we look at the NOAA Climate Prediction Center precipitation outlook for the week 2 time frame, kind of your bullseye precipitation signal here over the central part of California, and then expanding really across the west as a whole as we see these storm systems come through as a result of that extended Pacific jet stream. And that's really kind of the key here in January. It's helping to fuel a lot of these storm systems coming kind of sequentially, one after another, every few days or so. If we look over the next 30 days from the ECMWF weeklies, we can see a similar signal, kind of central northern California seeing the highest values in terms of anomalous precip. Again, as these storm systems spin off the coast of the western United States, they pull up these atmospheric rivers that we talked about earlier, which have to then go up and over the elevations of not only the coastal mountains, but then the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada, increasing the snowpack level, at least what's looking like through the end of January. It's a little early to say what we might be looking at in terms of February and March, but at least we're expecting a continuation of what has been a good first half to this water year out west, and at least for parts of California. As we wrap up here, I wanted to give you a quick update on the La Nina situation in the tropical Pacific. As of yesterday, looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies, we can see these cooler waters still persisting in the Pacific Ocean. That is the multi-year persistent La Nina that we've been watching over the last few years at least, now extending to 2023 in the new year here. I am showing you this because we are expecting a weakening of La Nina soon. If I show you these probabilities of La Nina continuing here in blue, you can see that as we get out into January, February, March, and April, these are falling rather quickly to the point where February, March, April, our probabilities of La Nina are down to 15%, rather minuscule, being replaced quickly by this gray bar. That's our INSO neutral state, so neither a La Nina or an El Nino. Kind of curiously, if you look at the right side of this graph where my eyes are drawn to, you can see these red bars increasing as we get out into summer of 2023. That's the El Nino probability now increasing above 50%, so perhaps the most likely state as we end the year in 2023. That'll be interesting to watch in terms of kind of flipping the pattern around for next winter compared to what we've seen in the past few years, where we've seen La Nina drive a lot of these drought concerns for parts of the West and even parts of the central United States. At least for the near term, I think this is good news for the West. If we can weaken the La Nina state as we get into the end of our water year, that decreases the chance that we see a return of those drought-like conditions that we saw in the 2021-2022 water year. And then looking at these El Nino probabilities increase at the end of the year, that would all else equal promote a wetter season in 23 and 24. It's a little early to say given the data here, but given that we had this fast start to the water year in this first half of 2022-2023, given the La Nina probabilities weakening very quickly early in 2023, we just might be seeing the end or the last few months of this multi-year La Nina-driven drought in California and areas beyond. Again, early to say that right now, but if trends continue the way they're at, we're seeing these systems come off the Pacific Ocean through the month of January, it looks like we might be sneaking out of this multi-year drought that we've been dealing with, unfortunately, for the last few years now. That's the update as of now. Thank you all for watching.